I believe one of the greatest proponents of healing is understanding. Today, we are having a conversation to journey the plight of mothers. Plight as a noun refers to a dangerous, difficult, or otherwise unfortunate situation. As a verb, it means to pledge or promise solemnly one's faith or loyalty. I actually find this to be a beautiful juxtaposition that highlights the highs and lows of any journey. I think mothers by nature anchor themselves in the life of their child or children. As caretakers, what's referred to at times as a natural instinct is often an inherited trait of loyalty. Therefore, the plight or difficulty in a mother's journey can be identified or is inclusive of the internal pledge they've made to their child.
Hi guys! Alright, so back with Deani Speaks. This would be coffee and combos, but I have no coffee. So instead, we're going to have a conversation about the plight of motherhood. I am not a mother, so I can't talk about this, but I have two important people who can. I believe one of the greatest proponents to actually healing is understanding. So I brought in my mother, Keisha, who's my biological mother, and my bonus mother, who I affectionately call Mama Angie, who had a major hand in raising me. Somewhere in their journeys, I popped in, and there was a shift in their journey as individuals, as Black women, and as mothers. And I think that you both shown a great deal of sacrifice, but coming from a child's point of view, I know I can only see but so much. And I know that there's a lot of things in your journey that many women, mothers to be and mothers currently, can relate to, and things that I think aren't highlighted or even a grace not offered to mothers. So I wanted to have that conversation. So for those of you who listen to my podcast interview, the link is below. A great deal of that conversation focused on my relationship with my mom. And there are some pieces in there you probably wondered, where was her mom and why wasn't she living with her? I may have been living with this woman right over here. Around the age of 10, I befriended Mama Angie's youngest daughter, or no, not her oldest daughter. And shortly after, I began living with them. And on and off for about 8 years. And with my mom, I know that there were pieces in that story that I cannot speak to. So I wanted to make sure she had her own voice to speak to. Again, healing by way of understanding what led me and what got me here, my own blueprint, was finally getting to a point where I could take away the title of mother or parent and understand you as an individual, and definitely as a woman. And I think my first heartbreak helped with that, because I couldn't understand. And while we were getting ready, we actually talked about something that I find very interesting to point out. I am the age that my mom was when she had me. But that wasn't her first child. What was I?
She was baby number 4. So I had 4 children by the age of 27.
And that's crazy to me. I can't imagine where I would be doing right now at trying to navigate life as a professional, as an individual, as a woman with 4 children attached to me. It would be difficult. So I wanted to figure out, the more time went on that I spent with you, Mama Angie, what stuck out and led you to the decision to have me live with you? Because I was just coming over to family events and birthday parties at first.
Yeah, coming over after school or things of that nature, but it wasn't any one specific thing that happened. It was just, and I didn't think about it. It was kind of like, okay, Deani came over and, oh, well, Deani's spending the night. Okay. All right, cool. Well, all right, so we'll take her to school. They go to the same school, and then Deani came back. So it's like, oh, okay. And I think at one point I had a conversation with your mom. She was going North Carolina or something of that nature, and she did. At that point, she did ask me if it was okay for you to stay for a while. And of course, you know, she's part of the family. She'll stay, and you know, and it just kind of went on from there. But it wasn't a thought. It was Deani belonged with us, you know. Just hurt.
Oh my goodness.
So I remember one particular event that's always stuck out to me. So I used to literally go everywhere. It was just natural at one point. And me and your daughter would always scheme away for me to come over. There was always a scheme involved. Like, I would leave school and we're like, okay, so you're gonna ask her, and then we're just gonna go to the store. We're just gonna tell her we're gonna go to the store, and then after the store, we're gonna just try and fall asleep. And then after we fall asleep, we might as well stay the night. We always had some type of plan so I can spend the night. And there was one time we went to the mall and everybody was getting something. We were in Payless, but this was exciting for us. We love some Payless. And everybody was getting something, and you were just like, what size you wear? You picked something out too. And I'm like, me? And it was always your way. You never wanted me to feel excluded no matter what was happening.
Right.
And if you noticed that there was something or an instant where it was a chance that I could feel like I was different from the family, you feel it. You feel that void immediately. So I wouldn't feel it. And I was like, I got some shoes. Now we all walking through the mall and I got a bag. And I'm just like, I got this bag. In this bag are my shoes. I'm not letting any of this bag. And it was so much. And then shortly after, maybe only a couple weeks later, we were sitting outside of my grandmother's house. Mm-hmm. And what was crazy, we lived on the same street forever. And just on opposite ends. Yeah. And I lived directly across the street from the school we went to. Right. So it was just like always God's plan. Mm-hmm. And I remember we were sitting in your truck, and I would always come up with a story so I wouldn't have to get out the car. And I would delay. As long-winded as I am now, this has always been a thing. I was as long-winded at 10. And I'm sitting in the car, and I'm trying to tell you a story, and you just turned around and said, why would you ever want to go in the house? And I was like sinking into the seat. I was like, if I could be anywhere else in the world but here, I would love it. I just didn't want to answer the question. Right. And instead of making me, and you saw how uncomfortable I was, you said, go in the house and pack a bag.
Go get your stuff.
Go get your stuff.
Go get your stuff.
And never asked, never pried, never made me have to be uncomfortable. And especially in front of other people, because we weren't the only ones in the car. And from that day on, it was a normalcy. That one stuck out to me the most. A very big deal. And I just always wondered what that was like for you, because I lived with you through different places in your life. You already had 3 children at the time. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And somewhere you found space to take on another. I was with you in the dating phase. I was with you when you got married.
Yeah, true.
You got a new house, and I was the first room on the right. How was that for you?
I think I'm just a product of my environment, so to speak. You know my parents.
Yes.
And their house has always been an open door policy to family, to friends.
Yeah.
It didn't matter.
Yeah.
You know, as I was growing up, people lived with us. Uncles, different family members. Yeah. It was, if we had it to give, or they had it to give, they gave it. And again, there wasn't a question. There wasn't a time frame. It was, what I have is yours too.
Yeah.
As long as you're respectful and things of that nature, then you're welcome. So I think it just passed on to me.
Yeah.
And to make sure that you're going to be safe, then I'm going to make a place for you. It's simple.
That was powerful though. Like, there was just never even a thought. Here I am though, again, from a child's point of view, I'm like, she just must see everything. She just must see how messed up everything is and just want to save me. But I didn't feel that from you. Like, there wasn't this superhero, just event happening. It was just a genuine, get your stuff. It wasn't anything. And I just wondered though, because I can only imagine, I see how difficult it can be for people to blend families. And there are many women who have a set of children who are from outside of their marriage, and they're trying to blend. And I never knew what it was like on the other side of that door, blending with a man who didn't have children.
True.
And then you're not only saying you have to accept my 3, here's a plus one. You're going to just take her too. Yeah. She's a part of this.
Right.
Was there ever any...
we didn't have any issues when it came to that, but bad, I guess, on my part. I never questioned him. I never said, is it okay if it was like, well, guess what? Gianni's coming. And we have to make sure that there's space for her, and that's just kind of what it is. He never spoke any bad words.
Yeah,
it was.
That was my dude.
Yeah, it was just, okay, she has to follow the rules just like everybody else.
Mhm.
That's just kind of what it was. He took it for what it was, and I mean, I know the Bible says the man is supposed to be the head, but to me, there are instances that the child comes first.
Mhm.
So, and at that point, the kid came 1st. So,
Yeah.
and that was just how it worked out for me, and it, it didn't cause any problems, so it was okay.
Wow. Look, she put her foot down. She's like, so, this is what's happening. So at that time, I remember, like, I didn't know that you guys had a conversation, actually. I never knew that you asked Mama Angie for me to stay at one point. What I do remember is there were marking periods, and we were, I guess this is middle school now. We were in 6th grade, because I was 11 now. So it's a whole year of me basically living there, on and off. And this was one marking period, you take your report card home. The next marking period, someone has to pick it up. And there was one day, I'm pointing because my sister is like lurking over the corner. She over there somewhere. But one day, my sister picked up me and Kavana, who's my other sister, and from the bus stop, and just set us down and said, "Mommy moved." And at this point, I was kind of used to us always moving, but never without you. So or you without us. And so I was like, oh. She's like, okay, you guys are gonna come stay with me now. And I stayed for a while for the sake of Kavana. So I stayed with our older sister, Tori, and that was an experience. But I always found my way back to Mama Angie's house. And that was a place where it wasn't Kavana and I. It was just my home, away from home. How was that for you? Because I can see on one end, my perspective for a long time was this was very selfish of Mommy. And then I got to a place where I was like, that was very brave of Mommy. Because I'm happy you can speak for yourself, but from my point of view, at that point, when I got to the brave idea was, Mommy saw that she couldn't have the best position for herself or us here. So her journey of healing meant to separate, to get her in order, to find an opportunity, and then when things were in a better and more consistent place for stability's sake, she'd add us. And that's where it goes back to that anchoring. I think a lot of women find it very difficult to find a separation, especially when it's typically put on women an expectation that you sacrifice. The man gets the option, but you have to. What was your thinking at that time? What led you, and what was your process of getting you to that point of saying, I'm going to go, and this time I'm going to go and not say anything?
I don't think it was my intention to go and not say anything. I even had to step back at one point and ask myself, why are you always trying to go to North Carolina? Why are you always trying to move south? And to be honest, there's nothing wrong with therapy. I didn't get the connection until I spoke with a therapist. When I was a little girl, my fondest memories was being in Florida. We had a home. We had a picket fence. We had a yard with a dog. When I came to Connecticut, I hate to put it this way, but I never knew of the ghetto. I never knew that houses could be that close to one another. I never knew that life. So I was always trying to recapture what I lost. And I was always trying to get my father to see me. Hey, if I'm closer to you, can you see me now? I'm here. I'm making a better life. Can you see me now?
Yeah.
The problem with my moving is I never had a plan. Had I have taken or had someone to guide me with the amount of money that I had and say, hey, well, this is what you need to make yourself stable,
right,
and then to make it a stable life for your children. I never had a plan. I had a thought and I ran. I ran without a plan. But I've always wanted to be in a better place. I've always wanted to be in the South. Never wanted to go back to Florida, but I always wanted my children to live in what I had, in what I lost. And I forever chased what I lost.
Wow. This is enlightening for me. No, that's good, because when you're able to finally put a final understanding to a piece, it eliminates all break in connection that there ever was. And I think for a long time that was the case. It's just unfortunate that you realized it after the fact,
after the damage, or
just after the fact, really, because the damage or the emotions are a totally separate part. It's just after the act of moving, then you got the clarity of, oh, I should have planned for this, and this is what planning even looks like. It's kind of like when people tell you to be organized. It's like, great, but what does that look like to be organized? I've seen people have a planner. How do I use it? You weren't given the tools. So how was that for you then? Because what was that conversation between you and your mother, between motherhood? Because when we weren't with you, or I wasn't with you for a great deal, and it were so many years before, because we moved in with grandma when I was 4. I didn't even meet Mama Angie until I was 10. So there was a 6-year span we were there on and off. What were the pieces of advice you were getting from her, or even the demands of motherhood that were being taught to you at that point?
Well, and that's the other thing. And I love my mother to pieces, so I would never say anything
of course
negative, but my mother never taught me. I was never given direction. We never had a conversation. Even when I became pregnant with my oldest daughter, Tori, when I was 17. And I was 17, about to turn 18. But even through my entire pregnancy, it was never pressed upon me that this is what you need to do as a mother. These are your expectations. When you have this child, it's still imperative and very important for you to go back to school, to get an education, to elevate yourself. I never had those conversations with my mother.
So what did y'all talk about?
I mean, surface things, to be honest, We talked about, after Tori was born, we talked about how to care for her and how to treat her, but it was never an after this type of thing. I was 17, and yes, people say, oh, with 17 you should know. There is no roadmap to being a mother.
Right.
You try to think of what to do and the best to do. Everything else in life gives you a license, or you prepare for it. Nothing prepares you for motherhood. And the ups and downs, the highs and the lows, nothing prepares you for that. And I can honestly say, even going into having another child, I still wasn't prepared for motherhood.
Wow. So we got 4 kids later. During that ordeal, I'm sure there were plenty of men you expected to marry or expected to be with.
She said plenty.
Maybe a few.
Look, Mama looked good. I'm sure back then you had a little something going. It was like, I'll take you and the kid.
Well, not plenty.
Okay,
Let's
fine.
be clear, there weren't plenty.
Okay, well,
One or two.
Right.
So let's put it this way: how many marriages did you have by the time you had your 4th child?
Girl, I have to think. I have been married 5-6 times. As my oldest daughter.
Learning new stuff.
Learning the new.
Come on, because I have never wanted to be a baby mama. I've never wanted to just be a side chick.
Yeah.
Like I said, it all goes back to what you see.
Right.
As a child, I saw marriages. My grandparents were married for forever. My parents were married. I didn't get to see the volatile side of that. My older brother did, but I saw marriage, and I never wanted to. It goes back to that trying to recapture what I lost. So I never wanted to have children and not have a man there. So I was married. The only one I was not married to was Tori's father. Read the book that's coming out.
He's got a whole chapter to himself. Go ahead, girl.
And then again, even with my son Bobby, I married his dad, but that was due to a heartbreak. You don't get married out of hurt, because if you're not whole, you're going to damage that person that you're married, or you're going to scar them. So when I met your dad, that's when I can honestly say I was truly in love with your father, head over heels.
He was a cutie. He was a little looker.
And the fact that he accepted my other 2 children as his own, he was a great father and a great provider at that time.
Right.
I figured that, okay, this would be a good man to marry.
Yeah.
And we got married, and he disappeared.
He did. But that's why I wanted to focus on Plight of Mothers, because I can only imagine right? I'm in love. I think I've reached a pivotal point of healing and the family unit that I've so been longing for. And then suddenly, the person I put my faith in, the foundation I built this family on, disappears when he gets what he wanted. No shade to my father or fathers, but the backstory is my dad was a great parent, so I was told, to my brother and my sister who were not his children. And blending families, such as what you did, Mama Angie, he naturally wanted one that did come from his own lineage.
Right.
And so he says, let's have a baby. And you said no.
I did. I absolutely said no. I said, Kevin, I'm not having any more children. I have a growing boy. I can't birth animals. There's no need for any further children. He'll tell you that's exactly how I said it. And because I didn't want any more children.
Yeah, tell us why.
Well, because I still felt like I wasn't where I should be. You know, so we were supposed to go to the doctor's appointment to view the ultrasound to see what we were having. And he went away for 2 days to New Haven or wherever he went. And it was time for the appointment. As the appointment drew nearer, he wouldn't answer the phone. I would call him, nothing, no response. So I ended up going to the appointment by myself. And I didn't find out until years later, after I had Kavana, even after I had you, that his father had the same characteristics. They really wanted a child. But when the test came back positive and it was, oh, I'm about to be a dad, they were gone. I suffered a serious break after that, emotionally. I was devastated. I mean, here's somebody that I'm truly in love with, and I want to bear his child, and he's gone. And that's when I met your in-between father.
So I'm a village child.
I don't want to say his name.
Yeah, let's not. What that looks like, and for me, is I believe it was always God's intention for me, because my mom needed the help. And there were things in me that needed to be nurtured and needed to be birthed out, that there were people that were in places in their life that could offer that, like Mama Angie. Yes. I was very angry, and I would hold in my anger, and I would also be very sad. And Mama Angie had the spirit that can calm me. She had the blue juice from Target waiting for me. They had this grape juice, and she would literally give, I mean, like, I'm a preteen, teenager, and she would come and say, look, let's talk. Sit in the kitchen and pull out this little, it was almost like a Capri Sun, but it was from Target, and it was blue. And she would, when she pulled that out, she'd be like, sit. Don't you feel better? Like, those were things, like, I was like, this is my mom. Like, this is my mother. She just found a way to talk to me and to raise me in ways and spaces where my mom couldn't. So one of those people were a man that my mom met while she was pregnant with me. So she was already pregnant, people. But
Yes.
Another story, another time. But she was already pregnant when she met him, which is also a difference. Women don't usually find men who are willing to step in. My sister's on the side making so many terrible looking faces. But women usually don't find men that are going to say yes when they are literally carrying the life that didn't come from them. And you did.
I did. And I was actually I was showing very much when I met him.
When, you know, I've never been where you've been in the whole...
Wait, what is this?
I mean, because, like, you like, I'm showing. I've never been there. You know, I got my own story, but I ain't never been there. And, you know, that... I can only imagine. Sometimes I feel like women look really different, depending. And you feel different, so I hear. So I just would think...
And some women look really fierce when they're pregnant.
And that too. But it's just, you know, I could see where that would be an even greater openness to love. For someone to see you in a state of being that you've never seen yourself, because even though you had children, this was a totally different pregnancy. Yeah. This was still a pregnancy on top of a body that you had already tried to find comfort in. So I can imagine you feeling like you find me beautiful, who I am in this process, easy to fall. And he was around for a few years, because I actually affectionately called him Daddy Blank, his name. And I knew he wasn't, but he was also around when my father wasn't. He was around when my father could be and chose not to, and he was also around when my father was incarcerated. So he played a big role in my life for quite some years, and then we just lost touch.
Yeah. He
But
was
yes.
he was very influential, especially with me, and emotionally, with helping me to keep it together, because I was still hurting over your dad not being there, you know, and in and out type of thing. So when I met this individual, and to get that attention, when you're pregnant, you want that attention, you need it. So I would have some, and there was never an intimacy between me and this individual during the entire time I was pregnant. So to have someone go to your doctor's appointments and massage your shoulders and massage your swollen feet, and to talk to you while you were in the womb and say, you're great, you're going to be something great. He prophesied it, here you are. Come on, I'm great. Thanks, Mom. You know, but it's very, very important. So
So that's where, you know, you're on that line. I mean, you had a different kind of story, though, of being 3 children in. What was that? What kind of things do you find similar in that? But it was different nonetheless. You also got pregnant young with your first pregnancy, right? What was that like? What were you told?
Well, when I think of it now, I think of it as a blessing.
Yeah.
But then, of course, I was 15. So I thought I loved him, and well, if you love me, this is what you'll do. And that's what I did. And then here came a baby. So the disappointment from my dad and my mom, that's scary. Yeah. And then you go and do it again with a different person. So it was like, okay, by the time I was 19, now I had 3 kids.
Wow.
So, but I finished high school because that's what you have to do. If this is what you're going to do, if you're going to have these kids, you're going to take care of these kids with the help of my parents, thank God.
Yeah.
But you have to finish school. I put college on the back burner, so I'll go to business school for now. I'll go to college later. Right. Because you have to take care of these kids.
Yeah.
That's the first priority. So I was that person that, no, I'm not going to go away to school. No, I'm not going to leave my kids behind. And I'm not saying that that's the right thing or that's the wrong thing.
Yeah.
That's just the path that I chose.
Right.
Because I didn't feel that it was my parents' responsibility or anyone else's to raise those kids. Because obviously the fathers weren't there.
Right.
And I'll preach that to anybody, any female, not that it's correct, but when you decide to get pregnant, whoever that person is that you're with, they don't really have that obligation to stay or take care of that child. You need to be prepared and ready to take care of that child, take on that responsibility, and do what it is that you have to do.
It's more than likely you may be alone.
Because more than likely you can be alone.
Was that how you were prepared, though? Was that the conversation your parents had with you?
My parents didn't really have that conversation with me. It was more so, we're here. We're going to take care of this child.
Wow.
You know what I mean? They took care of me. They helped. But it was, if I said something, what I said went. You know, even being a child, but still the parent, you know, I still had to do what I had to do. I still had to get up and go to school.
Yeah.
Luckily enough, my dad was home. He was able to take care of them while I was at school. But when I got home, sorry,
There you go.
the gloves are off. I'm going to work. These are your kids, you know. So I did what I did.
Wow.
And luckily enough, they turned out really well.
I love them all so much.
Yeah,
No, they're great.
Yeah, so it's, you know, of course, you know, there's another story. You know, you get sick at 20 some odd years of age.
Yeah.
You go through things, you're told you'll never have kids again. I believed it. But the doctors don't have the final say.
Amen.
Yeah.
Because at 34, 35, Deani doing cartwheels.
I was so excited. Me telling you were pregnant.
You
before
were telling
knew
me
it.
you were pregnant, and my face said, what? Are you kidding me? And here comes another one.
So you felt like you were set. So
I felt like I was set, but I was also told that I was sterile. That I wasn't. So at that point, when I was told that I was sterile, sad, makes you feel less than a person, less than a woman.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't want more kids. So at that point, it was like, okay, well, it was a blessing that I had my kids early on.
Right.
Right.
So it was like, okay, all right. And then here came Mary Marie. So that was the miracle baby.
Yes.
She was, yes, the perfect miracle, and she is so full of life.
She is.
Like, gosh, I love her. She's the best kid ever. But that is a very big difference of how you guys, and I think we can sometimes couple people into a generation, and I would just assume that in that time and in that generation, you guys are kind of just giving them a ton of, this is what you gotta do, suck it up, move on. And it's two sort of different stories there where it was, but it also sounds a lot like you guys said, no one told me to do that.
Right.
I just knew to do that. So would you call that an instinct, or would you call it your own pledge to your children, your own anchoring? How would you describe it?
As far as what? I mean,
Well, the responsibility of, like, exactly what Mama Angie said, any woman that has a child, you know this is your responsibility, and the man may or may not move on with that. You stating that, you know, you knew you having Tori at a young age, that right after that you have another, and soon after you'd even choose to have, you know, another life for the sake of someone else. Was there, again, for the sake of someone else, was there still somewhere in you that just said internally, I pledge myself to these children because I know that I'm going to be all they have no matter what? Or was there this is your responsibility being told to you that this is how you mother? Did you feel like it was just a natural instinct to do that, or was it just a responsibility?
no, I never felt like my kids were a responsibility or something. I just felt like from the time I saw each and every one of you, you know, you pledge within your heart, this is me, you know, and I'm going to do everything I can in my power to provide for those children, to make a life for them and to love them. And life comes at you in different ways. You don't realize how life comes at you until you become a parent. Now, I will say there were times when I dropped the ball because of me.
Yeah.
But I have always, till my very last breath, I've always loved you guys. And Tori, she's sitting off to the side. You guys can't see her.
Yeah,
but they have always said that you were my favorite.
I probably am.
You're not, but what I'm going I love all my
It's
I
only
love
because someone's in the room.
No, I love all my children unconditionally.
Here's my thing.
But I will tell you that you had a special place in my heart because, because, and I'm not trying to slight her father, but simply because he wasn't there.
Yeah.
And although this other individual was there and gave that fatherly love, I always felt like I had to be there for you. More than you know. And then when her face, and when I dropped the ball, I can't, you have not. We'd have to do another session on that. When I dropped the ball, it ate me up so deeply inside because you were the one that I always felt like I had to cover, I had to protect, because I felt like you weren't getting initially. That's not my baby, you know, because this other gentleman was there. So I got that. Oh, that's not my child type of thing. So I always felt like I had to cover you.
You felt like you were protecting me from rejection.
Absolutely.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes
Absolutely.
sense. I think women can be very judgmental of other women. Women can be
This is
very
very
judgmental
true.
of other mothers.
Yes.
And the women at the dance studio were very judgmental when they didn't see you or they saw me with you. And the other issue that I find a lot, and this is an issue I have with, I'm sure everyone has their own cultural influence, but with Black families, there is too much information and too much judgment that children are privy to. So I would constantly overhear the judgment of me, the judgment of my mom or my situation or my living situation, and even kind of the
looks.
to you, like, she's still staying with you, where her mama at. Like, y'all don't mind your business. So I would go toe to toe with no problem. And I think it was a part of that too for me, of having to learn how to defend myself,
Right.
be okay with my right and my wrong, and survive. Like, if there be a night that I'm staying in the car with you, or am I staying at Mama Angie's house, or am I staying with my daddy Jay? I got a lot of parents.
Yeah.
Like, I'd figure it out, and then at the same time going through my own relationships. I think that sometimes the plight of motherhood that gets transferred to the next generation of their children, there's always a result. And it does not mean that they were neither a good or a bad mother. It's just whatever occurred in your journey then can translate to the journey of your child. So bringing it all back full circle, my sister had a great question off camera. We had a lot of laughs when we turned this thing off. But one of her questions that she posed was, would you suggest your journey to that of another mother who may be struggling and saying, you know what, I do think it's best that, you know, her child her child turned out okay. I think it might be best that I, you know, take some time and I move and maybe even go south. Or what would be your response to that?
Absolutely not. And I feel that if you feel you need a mental break, or you feel you're a young mother and you never had a chance to really find yourself or discover you, there has to be a proper way to do it. Because once you become a parent, you're no longer solo. You have these lives of these children that you have to look out for, that you're responsible for, whether you want to be responsible for them or not. And unless you truly know that you can leave them in the hands of someone like Angie, and you know they can be protected, I mean, at times when I even left you with Grandma Joanne, I figured it was okay, but you have to.
Wasn't okay.
No, it wasn't. So you just
You didn't know.
I would say you should not. I would say you should not leave your children. Find a way, talk to a therapist, but when you move, they move with you. But don't. That's not the avenue to do it. And have a plan. Don't just up and move without a plan. You have to think things through when you have children.
And I believe God gives a gift. This was something I learned from my mentor, that the one gift that women get that men don't is foresight. And we can see way more into the outcome of an instance than men can. If you use that, I think it would just be greater for everyone, for all parties. I think had you been able to sit down and maybe at a time of mental break, had you been able to really just separate, sow into yourself with 2 nights into a hotel and make it with the intention of, okay, I get 30 minutes to cry. After that, what is the plan? What would it look like? You have to really map it out and be extremely strategic. And I think it's almost a checkpoint that you constantly do moving forward. That, like, we very close proximity with our houses, but 2 totally separate ways of living. And it was a lot of, you would think outside looking in, you guys had the same kind of support, and you didn't. I think where there were times even where Grandma wanted to support you, her husband wouldn't allow her to. So you guys both said there were things, like you see, there are things you weren't taught.
Absolutely.
Now, what did you guys learn in your journey of motherhood? If you were to put together your own sort of manual for the next, what would be 2 major standouts? I know.
Wow.
I know, a loaded question.
Listen.
That is kind of loaded.
But just 2.
But it's really loaded, considering, like, I would say, if you're gonna have kids, that it should be planned. That's something that should be planned, because not one of my 4 kids were planned. Not even the last one.
True.
So I would think that should be a plan, because
Absolutely.
you need to be at a point in your life where you're mentally, stably ready to do it.
Yeah.
Whereas I was just kind of like thrown in, okay, this is what we have to do. I have to take notes and pointers from what my parents did. And thank God I was blessed with 2 of the greatest parents in the world.
They rock.
So that's it. You know what I mean? And I think the other thing I probably would say is maybe to give the kids a little bit more rope, because I feel like I was a little strict per se with my kids, even though of course now that they're older they tell me things that have happened. As
like,
everybody
no,
does, as everybody does with their parents when they get older. But you know, I just wanted to make sure that they were going to be okay. You know, everybody stayed the night at our house. My kids didn't stay the night out. You know, nope, come and stay at my house, because now I know what's happening. So, but I probably maybe a little bit more, less stringent, maybe just a little.
She don't even want to say it.
I gotta.
Even though I'm still not doing that with her.
I was going to say, you know what, Anne-Marie watching this and be like, well, Mom, you said.
Yeah,
what about you, Mom?
I would have to 100% agree with Angie. Listen, it happens in life. You're young, you have intercourse, you meet somebody, think you're in love. Listen, it sounds corny, but wait to have sex. Wait, and if you can't wait to have sex, protect yourself. Get to know you. Do not bring a child into this world unless you're mentally, and Angie really hit on that, mentally, because it's one thing, your body can be physically ready to have a child.
Yeah.
But if you're not mentally responsible and ready to take on that, you're taking on a life. And someone's looking up to you for guidance and for food and for nurturing and for direction.
Yes.
Shelter. If you are not ready and capable and able to do that, you're not ready to have a child. And I don't mean ready to do it by your mom doing it. We were young.
Yeah.
And that's why you should wait until you can stand on your own 2 feet.
Yeah.
You can have your own place, support yourself financially. Nobody's saying you have to go to college, but too many people, too many young girls, young women, adult women having children, and we're not ready.
They're not ready.
We're not mentally responsible. And we have to answer for that.
Yep.
Because you have children looking up to you. Don't pursue it until you're ready.
Amen.
And that, guys, amen. That got me doing a self-check.
Yeah.
That is the plight of motherhood. Thank you guys again so much. One, for birthing me and for guiding me. I appreciate you both very, very much. You guys, I wouldn't be here without either one of you, quite frankly. Even still, in my very independent,
Very much so.
spontaneous lifestyle.
Yes,
That's another video. But even that, thank you guys for both breeding my freedom and giving me. I think there were times that you probably gave me a little more rope than the other kids.
I gave you a lot of rope, but
You
I
had a lot
always
of
told
rope.
you you were destined for greatness, though,
Yes, you
didn't I?
You did.
But
Always.
to Angie's part about the leniency, no. No. Keep that rope tight.
I
Yanni had a lot of freedom, but yeah,
I had a
little
lot.
bit. Give him a little bit.
In
Give him a little
truth,
bit.
I think my living situation
Right.
naturally
Absolutely.
offered more freedom than most.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, a little bit.
no one should have as much freedom as I did, because the goal was
No.
you gotta play sleep. It wasn't where. No, I'm sorry. I was good. I was great. I was a sweetheart. Another video, another time. Great time, everyone.
Great time.
You had 2 great moms.
Yes.
Two great
You
moms.
had
Yes.
the family from your mom. You had an extended family.
Yes.
Yes.
Everybody
I'm so
loves you.
grateful
Got
for
treated
you
just
for that.
like brother and sister.
Yes.
All the
Yes,
way.
you did.
Just
Love them lots.
Yes.
I need to go up the street now and say hi to everybody.
We all
Gavin, are you
love
saying
you.
goodbye?
Yeah, we love Kay.
Close us out. Say bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Say
Thank
bye.
you so much for being
Turn, say
here.
bye.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.